networking. So I've just got a couple of questions to ask about that, if that's okay.
Sure, I'll do whatever I can.
Okay, amazing. So simply before COVID, many had that opinion. But from what you've seen, have you seen how match reporting has changed?
Yes, it has changed. It's also a lot about what people talk about, because, of course, without the crowd in there and without most of the journalists, it's a very different thing. Sometimes the journos are only getting the information secondhand, or they're getting it from watching a broadcast. So it has changed in those terms. Obviously, you have a kind of pecking order like you do with all sorts of jobs, but it's only then the really big in the Bundesliga. It's only either the really big publications that are there, or the local ones that are always a part of the local reporting on the side.
And these changes, do you think it's a temporary thing, or when COVID's past us, do you think it will be here to stay forever, if you like?
No, I don't think it will be there to stay forever. I think as soon as everyone's allowed back in the stadiums, the journalists, the press boxes will be as full as they ever were. Because just as a little kind of sidetrack, I commentate for a living, and I would say that maybe 10% of the games that I commentate, I'm actually in the stadium. Most of the time we're commentating off tube out of studios. I've actually been in more studios, in more stadiums this season with COVID, because of where I'm positioned. All my colleagues that fly in and out of the UK can't travel, or couldn't travel, of course. So when the jobs come up when they've needed somebody in the stadium because they want basically nice pictures and people interviewed on the side, like the upcoming game against Gladbach and Bayern Munich, I'll be there with Stefan Freund, and we'll be not actually on the pitch because we're not allowed anywhere near the pitch anymore, but we'll be in the part of the terraces just in front of the pitch, doing our pre-match interviews and Q&As. And it's actually increased for me, and it's such a bizarre thing, whereas pretty much for everyone else, the times that you're actually in the stadium have been reduced. But it comes with being in that privileged position that we're kind of top of the, outside of the local, the German sky, as it were. We're kind of next on the line because we are the German Bundesliga world feed. So we have our fingers on the pulse, and we're allowed to be in there. But as soon as it gets back to some kind of normal, I'm fairly sure that the press won't change at all once it's allowed. I think it'll be like a floodgate will come down, and then hopefully lots more journalists will be able to back into the stadiums to do their jobs.
And do you think it's the same for networking opportunities? Obviously, less journalists have been able to go to matches and stuff. How have you seen that changed for you?
Well, actually, I've networked, again, since the pandemic, I've networked a hell of a lot more because of exactly this sort of situation that we're doing now. I've been in contact with a lot more journalists who have been writing articles, doing pieces about it. And again, because I've been absolutely blessed and to be in a privileged position. So I'm someone that people will turn to and say, well, what do you think about that? Just like you're doing to me right now. So in those terms, I've actually networked more in the pandemic than I ever did beforehand. Perhaps, again, as I said, it's because I'm in a position where people are asking me, because I'm actually in the stadium sometimes, not as often as if I was working for Sky, but it has changed. The pandemic has changed the way we do things, and I think some hangovers will be some things will be a hangover from the pandemic. People will work from home if they can, because I think we've all found out that it works quite nicely now. This whole video conferencing, Zooming or FaceTime or whatever, or Skype. Not everybody will have to be there anymore if it's not essential. And I mean, none of us can guess what it's going to be like in a new normal. But certainly I think there's been more networking in the pandemic than there was before, certainly from my perspective.
Do you think stuff like Zoom, like this now, do you think that's here to stay forever?
Definitely. And I'm not just in football, but in every walk of life. I think in the old days, you get the old fossils like me who are sort of like, oh, new technology, I can't be tired, can't be bothered to learn that. I'd much rather go there and shake hands with people and be, fly from London to Berlin and do the business and then fly back again. I think because people have had to do it this way, I think that lots of people will realise actually don't really need to go away, and it's more convenient just to do it like this because the technology is so good these days. I mean, we've got to the point now in the Bundesliga where a commentator can be sitting in Norfolk commentating a game in Bavaria with a co-commentator that's in Cologne here, which is right on the French-Belgian border. And to be absolutely honest, you wouldn't know. You really wouldn't know. They've got the technology now to do that kind of thing. I mean, I'm hoping that that's not the way it's going to be, unless I've got a nice place somewhere down where it's warm on a beach somewhere where I can just turn up on a Saturday, commentate the game, and then go back to my blanket and my picnic on the beach. But the technology with fast internet, almost anything is possible these days.
And then finally, with that, do you think there's been more opportunities for journalists to get work and freelancers and stuff, or do you think it just creates more competition?
I think on the one hand, it definitely creates competition. It also makes people think a little bit harder about what they're going to write about and how they're going to write about it, how they're going to go about it. But again, because journalists of people that write and the creative side of things, because they've not been allowed into the stadiums, I think it's made people think a little harder about what it is they want to write about and how they want to go about it. So in the most bizarre sort of sense, I think it's actually improved the quality. This whole the whole lockdown, the whole pandemic has improved the quality of the journalism without actually being in the stadiums, because there's loads of stuff out there to read. I'm sure I spend most of my time reading stuff on Twitter and people posting articles here, right, left and centre, but there has been an amazing increase in the amount of people just posting stuff for free, not even getting paid for it. Actually, the pandemic's not been great, but I think journalism has, certainly sports journalism has experienced a bit of a rebirth